What's up, everybody? So apparently, everybody's favorite sexually confusing vegan Ryan from Happy Healthy, that's alive if I've ever heard one, vegan, says that meat is not essential. But before we examine his because I say so science, I got a couple of things I want to say, such as fair use, Ryan. No need to get butt hurt. Get better. And if you like the kind of work that I do, well, feel free to support this channel in any way you see fit. So without any without any further ado, let's get into this.
Hey, this is Ryan of Happy Healthy Vegan, and this has been an ongoing story. Hopefully, you saw my first video back in mid-April where I showed how a
Seriously though, what is going on with his face? He's got like the jowls of a 90-year-old. What's up, bro? And what is that? What is that painting on the wall? Is that your wife, bro? With her crotch open for everyone to see, thankfully not smell? Wait, is that like the cover art for one of her masturbation masterpieces? Have any of you ever heard any of Anji's music? It's alright. One of my favorite tracks on there is There's a Party in My Pants and Everybody's Coming. Ryan's featured on a couple of them, like Cocktastic Voyage and Unleashed. Every Gimp Has His Day. Great album. From some wholesome and amazing vegans. Anyway, let's let her talk.
large pork slaughterhouse facility in South Dakota was forced to close because too many of its workers were coming down with COVID-19. Well, Smithfield Food, a giant
TH, Ryan.
in food processing and processing animals, was forced to close down a pig slaughterhouse after nearly 300 of its 730 employees tested positive for COVID-19.
300 out of 700 something. Yeah, Ryan, but how many papayas though?
And the closure of just this one pig slaughterhouse should have ripples throughout the whole food supply chain, because this one slaughterhouse supplies about 5% of our nation's pork. And since making that video too,
He got that same Bill Gates little under the breath laughter, does he not? Anytime he talks about what any normal person will consider a tragedy, he chuckles under his breath just a little bit. You're a good man, Ryan. You're a good man.
2 weeks ago, the spread of COVID-19 amongst workers in slaughterhouses and meat processing plants has gotten even worse. Almost 900 workers at a Tyson Foods plant in Indiana have tested positive for coronavirus. That's about 40% of its workforce. So
Dang. How many papayas though, bruh? How many?
not surprisingly, this Tyson plant, along with several other Tyson plants, along with many other slaughterhouses around the country, who are
Look at his eyes light up when he says several other Tyson plants. This guy's a psychopath.
that's about 40% of its workforce. So not surprisingly, this Tyson plant, along with several other Tyson plants, along with many other slaughterhouses around the country who are experiencing similar problems with COVID-19 amongst their workers, they have decided to close down operations. The slaughterhouses have shut down. Unfortunately, President Trump signed an emergency order commanding slaughterhouses and meat processing facilities to remain open despite these widespread outbreaks of coronavirus amongst their workers. And this is despite the fact that approximately 5,000 meat industry workers have contracted COVID-19 and 20 have died. This is
20 people have died. Oh boy. How many slaughterhouse workers are there out there? Let's just say 10,000, which is a gross underestimate probably. If 20 out of 10,000 died in the last 3 months or so, that's still lower than how many you'd expect to die just cause, given that the mortality rate for America is about 9 people out of 1,000 annually. And since nobody seems to be dying out of anything other than COVID these days, there's nothing out of the ordinary going on, genius. Nothing.
An absolutely nightmarish situation for people who work in the meat production businesses. I mean, first of all, they're some of the most exploited workers in any industry.
Citation needed? How about it, buddy? With millions of people out of work right now, you know, if they don't want to work there, they don't have to. Somebody else will pick up the slack. Maybe you.
Out there. Reports have shown that these workers are discouraged from calling in sick. They don't get any kind of paid leave. In fact, they even need to report to work when displaying symptoms of illness, else they risk losing their job. Once they're there working ill, it's virtually impossible amongst workers on the production lines there to maintain any type of social distancing of 6 feet. They work.
How do you have brain fog while reading, Ryan? How does that happen?
Essentially shoulder to shoulder. So unfortunately, more and more of these meat processing workers will continue to contract coronavirus as they continue working in these conditions which have led.
Isn't that the point, Ryan? Isn't it the point that everybody should contract this, develop herd immunity, and then we can move on? Besides, US flattened the curve more than a month ago. So shouldn't people go back to work? Your scientists, Ryan, have said that we need to flatten the curve, not to get fewer people infected, okay, but so that we slow the spread of the disease. And once we flatten the curve, people can get back to work. It's been a month, Ryan. Don't you want people to go back to work so they can make money? The scientists say it's okay. Don't you want your economy not to collapse? Really? Seriously.
To where they're at right now, with some plants having as much as 50% of their workforce infected. And it doesn't stop.
That's good. That's how you develop herd immunity, brah.
At the factory, these factory workers leave, they go home and can spread it amongst people they live with, family members, older family members, and these workers all.
Yeah, like it's always been done throughout human history. The same way, Ryan.
Also will spread it amongst the community.
See, this is the problem with these people. They are always trying to play God. They want to direct nature. They want to control everybody. Not realizing, at least not in Ryan's case, how he's literally shooting himself in the foot, destroying his economy, imprisoning himself. But he's not the sharpest tool in this shit. Come on.
That they live in. Spread it amongst the community that they live in.
Community that they live in.
So essentially, our president has proclaimed that those who work in slaughterhouses to be essential workers because our president fears that there will be meat shortages that people in our country will face, which would cause society to collapse. First of all, I want to point out that this executive order does nothing to prevent the continued shipments of meat produced in the United States overseas to China. So essentially, there's no guarantee that this executive order will prevent meat shortages in the United States. But even more importantly, I want to point out that by.
Look at how thought of meat shortages just makes him happy. This guy is a complete psychopath.
Prevent meat shortages in the United States. But even more importantly, I want to point out that by Trump declaring meat processing workers to be essential workers, he's essentially declaring meat as essential, which I argue here is completely untrue. Meat is most definitely not essential, despite what most non.
Yeah, if you want to look and act and behave like Ryan, then meat is not essential. But who does? Ryan, nobody wants to be like you, bro. No man on this planet wants to be like you. And why should they?
Non-vegans and non-vegetarians may believe. Just let me say it here in case you've never heard this before. You do not need to eat meat or dairy or eggs or.
Here we go with the because I say so, scientism.
any other animal product to be alive, to be thriving, and to be healthy. And that's just not my opinion. It's the opinion after reviewing all the available scientific evidence.
But it's still just an opinion, right, Ryan? And no, they did not review all the scientific evidence. How did they, since they for damn sure believe in it, completely and utterly ignore evolution? How? How did they do that? And how scientific is that? If you're gonna assume the evolutionary paradigm, how do you dispense with it whenever convenient? And how do you still call that scientific? You can't do that, dummy.
Of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which is the largest group of health professionals in the world, and they say very clearly that vegan diets.
These diets are appropriate for all stages of the life cycle, including pregnancy, lactation, infancy, childhood, adolescence, older adulthood, and for athletes. This is the opinion of vegans and vegetarians, and I don't see any citations here, do you? And besides, just to protect themselves legally from any and all lawsuits, what do they say? Do they say that the vegan or vegetarian diet is appropriate for all of these stages of life together? Or any one of them individually? Or maybe one or two here or there? Which has been just your experience, Ryan. 10 years out of the entire life cycle is nothing. Nowhere does it say in this opinion paper that the vegan diet is healthful for a human being from birth to death. It divides the entire human life cycle into individual stages and proposes that it's healthful for any one of them, but not all of them in succession in any one human being from birth to death. Nowhere in that paper is anything like what you're trying to say actually being said. But it's not like you can read, can you?
Are healthful and nutritionally adequate for people in all stages of life. So despite what many people may have been led to believe for most of their lives, you don't need to eat meat to get protein. Eating meat-free diets won't lead you to become nutritionally deficient in any vitamins or minerals. You could take my blood test here. This year will mark my 10th year as a vegan. No animal products whatsoever. And I've got my blood tested essentially every 12 to 18 months throughout this time. And I've shared them with you guys here on YouTube.
You have not shared all of your blood tests. 12 to 18 months. Why are you lying, Ryan? You only have like 3 or 4 blood tests over the last 10 years. And you're way overdue for this one. I wonder why that is. Probably because you're pre-diabetic. According to your blood sugar levels, you're on your way there. So let's see your current blood test. I've been waiting.
Transparency, and here's my latest one. You can stop and pause it, have a look at any part of it that you like. I am deficient in nothing. In fact, I have absolutely stellar blood test results for a person of my
low vitamin D, continually increasing blood sugar levels, liver enzymes are almost in the red. Yeah, perfectly perfect, right? Nothing wrong with it. Nothing at all.
Age of 52. So the point I'm trying to make here is not about me. The point is that if someone like myself and many others like myself have been not only surviving but thriving for years, decades, eating absolutely no meat, no dairy, no eggs, it stands to reason that your average non-vegetarian, non-vegan people out there, instead of being worried and panicking at the notion of there being no or very little meat at the supermarkets for the next several months, they will be just fine eating plants as I have and many.
Okay, well, by that same logic then, Ryan, it stands to reason that since so many vegans have failed on the vegan diet, it cannot be all the things that you say it is, by your own logic. Except you have no clue what logic is, because your anecdotal experience means that everybody else can do it, even though there's tons of anecdotal reports out there that prove that people can't. Like I said many times before, it doesn't take but a couple of minutes for a vegan to contradict him or herself. Ryan will say, it's not about me, but I prove by eating this way that everybody else in the world could eat the same way that I eat and be perfectly fine. it's not about me, but if you have a completely different experience where you failed on the vegan diet, you did it wrong because I did it right. But it's not about me. Okay. Good going, genius.
Others have done as happy, healthy vegans. So no, meat is most definitely not essential. You don't need to eat meat in order to stay alive. You can survive for a few months or many decades
Many decades. Citation needed, bro. Doesn't exist.
without meat, absolutely no problem. Plants, on the other hand, are 100% essential, not only for human consumption, but for animals, for livestock. Most people are probably not aware that the livestock that they end up buying at the supermarket as meat are fed diets of plants.
Really? Like this is your vegan guru? This is the intellect of the average vegan guru out there? Most people aren't aware that the animals that they eat plants. Really? I, did you just find that out yourself, Ryan? You had a eureka moment, huh? This has to be a complete and utter projection. How can people not know this? Only dum-dums like Ryan wouldn't. Wow. So let me get this straight. Even though meat contains all the essential nutrition for a human being, and plants do not contain all the essential nutrition necessary for the survival of the human being, it is plants that are non-essential and not the meat. This isn't even logical, Ryan. How can you pretend that it's scientific?
But meat 100% not essential. And for our president to declare meat as essential, he's needlessly putting the
Needlessly, this dude is developing a serious speech impediment. Something's wrong, Ryan. Like, you used to be able to talk. Smithfield needlessly. What are you saying, dude?
our president to declare meat as essential, he's needlessly putting the lives and the health of these meat processing plant workers at risk and also endangering those who live in the nearby communities to these meat.
And also endangering those. And also endangering those who live in. This guy sounds like a robot. Ryan, you have major brain fog, dude. We know you're reading.
So I know for most of us, it's a lot harder right now to find the foods that we're used to eating. Supermarkets are out of a lot of things. So I encourage people who are used to eating
So I encourage people.
meat to eat way less meat now, particularly now that there's going to be a lot less meat at the supermarkets.
Brilliant logic, yet again. In case you didn't understand what he just said. Because there's going to be less meat, he encourages you to eat less meat. But because there's going to be less plants, he encourages you to eat more plants. Yeah, makes sense, Ryan.
And do you really want to put the lives of these meat processing facilities at danger, risk them just so you
He sounds like he has altitude sickness or something. Ryan, you live at sea level. Why are you gasping for air, bro? What's going on?
lives of these meat processing facilities at danger can eat plants. So for all these reasons, I encourage people to consider going more plant-based, more vegan right now, and maybe you'll like it. Maybe you'll want to do this in the long run after things somewhat get back to normal in the future.
This guy's all primed and ready for the new normal, right? Complete and utter NPC robot. Just spouting out this anti-humanist agenda. He has swallowed this nonsense hook, line, and sinker. The new normal is coming, as is everybody at my wife's party. Meh, meh. Ryan is exactly that type of silk wearing, soft kind of a male as we saw in the movie The Hunger Games. He's exactly that. Anything real, anything natural, anything normal, and he gets squeamish. He's just an NPC robot programmed to swallow and regurgitate the programming. It doesn't make any sense what you say, Ryan. It doesn't take but a couple of minutes for you to stick your own damn foot in your mouth, not understanding how you just shot yourself in it. You don't have the slightest clue of what's going on in the world or how it's going to impact you. But the most disturbing thing about people like Ryan is the fact that even though they're completely psychopathic, utterly evil, chuckling just like Bill Gates at the fact that people are going to be starving because they're not going to have their ancestral, most nutritious, best kind of food available in the same quantity as they did in the past. While he's doing all that, he has somehow convinced himself and tons of people around him that he is some kind of an ethical person. The great call is coming, and Ryan is nothing but a sheep. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.